Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Ryan here, and we're going to create a Next.js application that's going to take Coinbase API information and populate a Google React chart on our front end. I'm on a Windows machine here, and I'm starting in this folder. You can make any folder you want, but I called it Coinbase API Google Chart. And I'm going to start by opening up PowerShell. And we're going to create our next app by doing yarn create next app. And it's going to take a second to load, but now that it's prompted here, we can do, I'm going to call this Coinbase API Google Chart. And we're not going to use TypeScript, and we're not going to use ESLint, and we're not going to use Tailwind. We're not going to use the source directory or the app directory, and we're going to leave the import alias as default. And it'll take 1 second for the project to get generated. And now that it has been generated, we're just going to go and CD into the project folder, and now we can open it in VS Code. All right, so the project is open here in VS Code. We can begin by opening a terminal. And we're going to just run the project to confirm that everything's up and running. So we can do npm run dev. And this will open up the application on localhost 3000. All right, as you can see, we have our beginning Next.js application. So to start, what I'm going to do is on a Next.js project, they use this pages folder, and everything starts at index.js. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all the graphics and all the texts from the Next.js project. So we can save this. And if we go back to localhost 3000, it's been updated and it's deleted everything inside here. The next step is I'm going to create a components folder. And this components folder is going to hold the components so we can add them into the index.js page here. And then we'll be able to display what we want to display pretty easily. So next thing is we're going to search for Google React charts. And you can go into the site here, and we're going to be looking for an example of a candlestick chart. And there are two types of candlestick charts. This is the simple version where they have this blue and white display, but we're going to go with a more traditional waterfall chart, which is this red and green, and you'll usually see it in Coinbase. So I'm going to hit Control A and copy this information, the web page, and we're going to create a new component. So we're going to do so we'll make a new file, which would be Google waterfall.js. And we're just going to paste in that information from the Google React chart website. So as it's set up, this is an application. So you get this app function that gets generated that they use as the example. However, we're not going to be using this. We have to convert it to a component. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this to export Google waterfall. And we're going to turn this into a functional component. We can do export const. And then this will return a chart. So this chart element is going to be coming out of Google Charts, Google React Charts as a as a library or package. So we're gonna copy this, and then I'm gonna cut the server and cut the dev. And now we're gonna do yarn add Google React Charts. So this installs Google React Charts. And now that we have this functional component that's being exported, we can go ahead and modify the data here. So instead of, because these export statements make it so this information is accessible outside of the component, we don't need to do that. So we're going to remove these exports, and then they'll be usable within this chart component here that gets brought in through Google Charts. All right, so now we can go to our index.js, and we're going to add Google Waterfall, and that will add it up here, and we can close out the component. And now we save this, and if we go to our localhost 3000 right here, and we have to restart the server here. So npm run dev, and now we go back, and if we refresh at localhost 3000, we get the chart showing up right in here. So now that we have our chart visible, and we know that we can we can bring the component in, what we want to do is we want to make a backend that we can fetch the data from the Coinbase API into our own backend, and then send the information from our backend into this chart in the front end. So we're going to go back to our folder, and we're going to create a new folder in our initial project folder, and we're going to call it backend. And inside of the backend, we can open up PowerShell. So I'll use this one. Here we go. And we're going to cd back and then cd into backend. And now we're going to do npm init-y. So this will make an npm a node project for us with a package.json. And back in our PowerShell, we want to open it up in VS Code already inside the backend, so that's good. And now that we're in here, we can create an index.js, and this is where we're going to run our server out of. So in order to get the information for the server, we want to go and search for Node Express. And now we have Node Express here. We can go to Getting Started in Hello World, and we're just going to copy this information and go back to our back end here, paste it in. And in order to use the Express app, we have to open up the terminal, and we're going to do yarn add express. And it's going to take a second to install Express here. And since we'll be using port 3000 for our front end, we can change this back end port to 3001. And then we're going to do, in order to start the server, just to make sure it's working, we're going to go to node index.js. And if we go back here to our browser and we go to localhost 3001, we have Hello World popping up. That means our server is active and working, which is good. So now that we have a working server, we're going to create a new file. We'll call it Coinbase.js. So in Coinbase.js, we're going to fetch the information from the Coinbase API, and we're going to bring it out to our server that can serve it out to our front end. So in order to get the information to make use of our Coinbase API, the Coinbase API in our own project, we want to just do Google search of Coinbase Exchange API. And so inside of the website here, we go to read the docs, and then we go to API reference. And inside of the API reference, we want to go to products, and we want to get product candles. So in get product candles, this is the information on how to fetch the data from the API. As you'll see here, it is giving this pretty much a variable for product ID because the information hasn't been input yet. So if you go down to the path parameters and you type in BTC USD, you'll be able to get the candle information for Bitcoin USD exchange. So now that we had this URL, this is indicating how to use Axios. We're going to use fetch. So in our back end, we want to paste the URL here, and we can set it to a variable. So now we have the URL that will produce the information out of the Coinbase API. But since we're going to use fetch, this is only, you can only use this with Node 18 and above. So make sure you have Node. Otherwise, you'll have to install a fetch package. But it should work pretty much the same. So what we're going to do to fetch this information is we're going to put it into a function. So we're going to do const, we'll call it get candles. And then we're going to have this function return a new promise. And we want to put our resolve and reject in here. And now that we have this new promise, we're going to use a try and a catch. And inside the try here, we're going to create the fetch. So we'll do const response equals await fetch. And then we're going to pass the URL into our fetch. The situation is that we can't use await because there is no async function. So we need to declare the function within the promise as async. And then we'll be able to pull the response from the URL here, which will access the Coinbase API. And now we need to turn it into JSON. Or we need to use the JSON function to make it into a usable Coinbase object. So we'll begin by doing const, and we can do candles equals await response.json. And I need to get rid of the E after await. That will fix it. And what we're going to do is if we console.log the candles, we will see that the information will be pulled out of the API. Also, we want to set the resolve. So we'll do res with an empty resolve. And then within the catch, we'll do a rejection if there are any errors. And then we have to pull get candles out of this file so it's accessible in index.js. So we're going to do module.exports equals and get candles. And so the way we're going to test this is we're going to go back to index.js and we're going to pull in the get candles. Let's require /Coinbase. And what we're gonna do is when we start the server, we're just gonna call an asynchronous and anonymous function, which is gonna call get candles and should print out the should print out the information that we're looking for. So we'll do it this way. And then you can do await get candles. And then we'll set this anonymous function as async. And we'll call the anonymous function. And now it should take get candles out of the Coinbase file. And then it should console log the candles out when we start the server. So we're going to terminate the server. And now we'll restart it. And here are the candles right here. And there's many of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the candle information. And it's just so to advise, it's an array of arrays that's being returned by the API. And we're going to take the first 10 of them. So we'll do const candle set equals await candles dot slice. And we'll do 0 at 10. So now we can log out a candle set. So I'll take 10 of these candle arrays and print them out. So when we terminate the server and then rerun it, we'll get 10 arrays here that contain candle information. And so now we have confirmed that we can pull the candle data out of the API. So what we want to do is upon a GET request, we're going to return the information from get candles out through the API. So we can do that by going within the get function here, and we're going to say const candles set equals await get candles, and then we have to await this function in the get here, or I take it back, async. And now we can res.json our candle set. And we can get rid of the asynchronous and anonymous function. And so now when we go to localhost 3001 on our browser, it should list these 10 candles inside the browser. So we'll terminate the server and rerun the server. And now we go to our browser and we go into our localhost 3001. This is where our server is running out of. And when we rerun it, let's try one more time. It is not returning it. Let's see. Oh, it's console logging it. I have to actually resolve the candle set. That makes sense. Out. And then we can stop the console log for now. Alright, so now I'm going to resolve the candle set out. It will come in and Going to stop the server. And now we're going to run it again. And when we go back, we can refresh. And here are the candles. So now that we can confirm that the candles get sent out through our back-end server, all we got to do is bring it into the front end now. So let's go and get into our front end project. So here's our front end. What we're going to do next is we're going to create a new component, and we're going to call that Coinbase waterfall.js. And we're going to just copy this Google waterfall component into the Coinbase waterfall. And we're essentially going to replace this data information with the data we get out of Coinbase, and we pull into our own server. So now we can even delete the data for now, and we're going to create a new folder. So it's going to be a data folder, and inside the data folder we'll do data.js. So inside of data.js, we're going to we're going to fetch the information out of our own server. So we will do that with our own function. So we could do const get data equals, and then we're going to return a new promise. Res reg. And so we're going to do a try once again and a catch. And in our try, we're going to declare a response. So await fetch. And in our fetch here, we're going to do our localhost 3001. So http://localhost 3001. And we have to make it so that this is an async function once again. And so that should pull the information, those 10 candle arrays out of our own server, which got it from the Coinbase API. So now we'll do const candle set equals await response.json. And now we'll be able to confirm that we pull the data into our front end by console logging it. And we'll do candle set. That will resolve with an empty resolve. And then in the catch, we'll reject any errors and send them out. So now we want to export get data. So export const get data. And now we can pull it in. Actually, let's do this. I spelled this wrong. Candle set. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our Coinbase waterfall here. And we're going to return an empty component. So let's put it in here just to test that we're grabbing the data correctly. And now we're going to go ahead and import the data or get data. And now we also need two things out of the React library. We need use state and use effects. So what we're going to do is we're going to set a variable within the waterfall. It's going to hold our data. So I'll do const user data set user data equals use state, and we'll set it to null initially. And now we're going to use effect, because we're going to call get data only once upon the initial rendering of the component. So we'll do use effect, and then in order to get it so that it only runs once upon the initial rendering, we have to put some empty brackets here. And now within use effect, we have to use get data, since in here it returns a promise. It's going to be an asynchronous function here. So we have to do const, I can do process data, I guess. We have to create as a function, and we're going to do await get data, and then this becomes an async function. And within the use effect, we're going to call process data. So when this component gets run, and it should print out the information that we could pull out of our server, which got pulled out of the Coinbase API. So within index.js, we're going to pull in Coinbase waterfall. I guess we gotta import it ourselves. Import Coinbase waterfall. Actually, I gotta make sure. Oh, that's why, because I called the component Google. So Coinbase waterfall. All right, so now if we go back here, I'll delete this, and then I'll do Coinbase waterfall. So this will get it so that our Coinbase waterfall component is rendered within the application. And upon rendering, it should do a fetch to our backend server, pull the information out of the server, which pulls the information out of the Coinbase API. And so now I'm going to go ahead and restart the front-end application, which will be at localhost 3000. And if we go back here, so this is localhost 3000, there's an issue. And then, so we'll look at it, and it says you can't fetch to localhost 3001. And there's a reason for that, is because the cores within Chrome or Chromium does not allow for two separate applications to make requests between each other without setting cores policy. So what we're going to do is we have to go to the back end in VS Code, and we have to implement cores. So we're going to Google search Node Express cores. And then within the cores documentation, we should be able to figure out how to implement cores so that we can communicate between our front end and our back end. So what we're going to do to start is we're going to install cores. So let's go into the back end. We're going to close the server, and then we're going to do yarn add cores. And then we're going to go ahead and add cores to the backend application. And then in here, we have to set app.useCores. And then you can do we're going to send origin, and then we're going to set it as a star. So in here, app's been declared up here. So now we can do app.cores, and then we have to set an object where we set options. Or I take it back. Let's do origin. So we'll set origin, and that's going to be a star. And I believe this should allow it to work. And now let's rerun our server with node index.js. And now we can go back to the front end, and we'll go here to localhost 3000 and rerun it. And there we go. So we've Cores policy has allowed us to take the information from the Coinbase API and send it through our server to our front end. And this is the 10 different candles, the information for the 10 candles right here, and it's being accessed by our front end, and it's being printed right here. So now what we got to do is we're going to go back into our front end so we know the data is being populated, right? But the thing about the data is that it doesn't sync up. So here's the Google data. It doesn't sync up with the Google data, so we have to do some modifications. So to render the Google chart, there's two different colors, right? So there's red and there's green. In order to get a green, you have to indicate an opening value. So in here, it's this 28 to 38. So the 28 is an opening, 38 is the close within the candle. So if the close is greater than the opening, it's going to generate a green segment here. And then there's a low and a high. So that's what these this blue bar is. So the low is on the bottom and the high is on the top. The thing is, within the Google charting system here for this candlestick chart, if it turns red, so if the close is less than the opening, then it states the high, so the top of the blue bar first, and then it'll state the low, which is the bottom of the blue bar, second. And then it's in the reverse. So if it's green, where the opening is less than the close, then it means that the low, the bottom of the blue chart, or the blue bar, is stated before the top, or the high of the blue bar. So we have to do some accounting for that. And we'll be able to do that this way. So in our front end, we're going to go back to data.js. So we know you get the 10 candles coming in. So first we're gonna have to remap the candles out. So we're gonna do const new candles equals candle set dot map. And we're gonna pass in a candle, and inside of this map function, we're gonna declare a new array. So every candle is an array. So we're taking this array of arrays, which is candle set here. And we'll actually get So candle set, and we're going to pass in one of the arrays. The candle is an array. We're going to create a new array. And we're going to create a timestamp to start. So if you look at the data in here, at least coming from out of the Coinbase API, so this right here is a Unix timestamp, which is Greenwich Mean Time. So we need to convert this timestamp into a human readable format. So that's what we're going to do in this step. So back in data.js, we're going to say const timestamp equals new date. And we're going to create a new date out of the first element of this candle array. And we're going to multiply that times 1000 so that it functions properly with this with the date class here. And then now that we have that new date object, we can grab the hours. So const hours equals timestamp dot get hours. And then we have to do some accounting for the minutes. So the minutes come out as single digits from this date object if it's less than 10. So we want to do some accounting for that. So we'll do const pre-minutes equals timestamp dot get minutes. And then we got to do .toString. All right. And then we're going to declare a minutes variable. And now we can do, we can check if pre-minutes dot length. So if the length of the pre-minutes is equal to 1, then we're going to set minutes equals 0 and pre-minutes. Otherwise, minutes equals pre-minutes. So yeah, if pre-minutes comes out and it only has one character, then we append a 0 to it. Otherwise, minutes is just going to equal pre-minutes because it already is 2. And then next we're going to set the seconds. And that's just going to be 00 because there are no seconds being returned by the Coinbase API. So it just does minute to minute. And now we're going to create a formatted time. And that formatted time is going to be hours and semicolon, and then minutes and, or not semicolon, but colon. Come on. Interesting. All right. And minutes and semicolon and colon and seconds. All right, so there we go. And I forgot an and here. All right, so now we have this formatted time. And with the formatted time, it is going to, since it's going to be where the label is in here. So in Google, instead of Monday, we're going to declare the minute by minute time. So this is going to get pushed in. So let's do r.push. We're going to push in our formatted time. And then now that the formatted time has been pushed in, we have to account for the whether the high or the low goes in first, or if actually if the high or the low goes in first, and that's based on whether the opening is less than the close or it's greater than. So we're gonna begin by doing parse float. We're gonna take the opening value of our candle here that's getting pushed into the map, processed through the map. So we'll take our opening, and if that's greater than or equal to parse float and candle 4, so this is the close, then we're going to push in candle 2. So that will be pushing in the high. And then otherwise, if the close is greater than the open, we're going to push in candle 1. Actually, yeah. So that's going to be the low. All right. So if the open is greater than or equal to the close, that means we got a red space. So then we push in the high instead of the low. But if the close is greater than or equal to or is greater than the open, then we're going to push in the low, which is the one instead of the high. And next, so that's 2 elements that are being pushed into this new array. So we have the formatted time plus the high or the low. And then we're going to push in the open. And we'll do candle. And that is 3. And then we could push in the close. Candle 4. And now, for the last part of this array that we're going to be returning from the map, we're going to reverse whether we push in the high or the low. So for this last element, if the open is greater than or equal to the close, we're going to push in the low in the last element of this array. Otherwise, we push in the high. And so that will get us our array to be properly formatted for the graph. And now we're going to return the array that we created. And that will map into new candles. And what we need to do now is that if you look at the waterfall here, the Google one, the first array in this array of arrays in the data has the title for the category of what's going to be going across the x-axis. So we have to insert that information into our array too. So what we're going to do is we'll do new candles dot push. Actually, no, we're not going to use push. We have to push into the front. So we're going to use unshift. And then within unshift, we're going to push in this array. And it's going to contain these elements, time, and then 4 empty strings. And now this will push that array into the front of the new candles array that contains all these other arrays, and we'll be able to return that and put it into the graph. So now that we have these new candles, we want to res them out. And we can get rid of the console log for now. So these new candles will be coming into this component through get data. So now we can say const new candles equals await get data. And what we're going to do when we retrieve that information is we're going to assign it to this user data variable. So now we're going to do set user data, and we're going to do new candles. All right. So now, once we pull the information into our component here, what we need to do is we need to display this chart. We want to wrap it and here. And all right. So now we have this chart. And what we're going to do here, instead of using data, we're going to set it to user data. And in order to prevent any errors, we're going to take this chart and we're going to only display it if user data has a value. So if it's not null. So we're going to do user data and then we can take this. All right. So if user data is available, it will display the chart inside of the page. And now we have our Coinbase waterfall. It's been added already. So if we go to our localhost 3000 and the server is running, you will see the prices of Bitcoin in the waterfall here. And there should be 10 candles here. And there's one more thing to address. It's that the time, as you can see, is not in the right order. So we have to reverse the time. So let's go back into our front end. And in the data here, before we insert this array at the front, we're going to do new candles.reverse. And that should switch the time around. And now that it's been refreshed, we should be able to look and you'll see that we have 135, 136, etc. And these are the prices of Bitcoin right now. So it's been up in the 30,000s. And you'll see for the green, it had an open of 30,207 and it closed at 30,216. So that means it's green. And when it's green, it's going to display the low amounts, the bottom of this blue first on the left-hand side when you hover over the candle. And then it'll show the high as the second. And then when it turns red, so it means that the open is greater than the close. You'll see on the right side 30,216. It closed at 30,214, so that makes it red. And then that will depict the high first on the left-hand side with the low as the second value. So the low is the blue bar. So we have successfully brought in the Coinbase API information into the Next.js React front end to our own server. And the last thing to do is to remove the Google waterfall. And we can isolate the Coinbase. And then if we go back to our application here, you'll see that it is isolated and it is no longer printing out the information in the console, and there's no errors. So I say it's a job well done. Thank you for watching, and I hope you like and subscribe, and check out the next video when I make one. Thank you.